Hey guys, what's going on? Darnkurt here. I come to you with a rack extension review, AutoArp from Black and Orange. And let's start off with this store patch that I'm going to be arpeggiating. It's quite simple, just some pulse width modulation and a filter. Okay. Now what you do is you create AutoArp, and it's not under utilities as you might expect it to be, but it's under instruments. That's because of the routing. And now this is the arpeggiator interface. Now if you flip the rack around, we gotta hook it up manually. So I take the main gate CV output and apply it to sequencer control in the Thor. And now we can start arpeggiating. Now this interface is really overwhelming the first time you look at it, but I'm gonna try to explain. So note mapping is basically what notes can be triggered by a MIDI keyboard. This is what notes get filtered when you trigger a note. So, for example, if I play C, then all the settings that I set up for C are going to be applied. And if I play D, all the settings I set up for D are going to be applied. But if I play C sharp, then C is going to be played. So this is where you can do that. Then the chord generator is where you can set up your major, minor, all those preset chords, or even a custom chord that are going to be triggered corresponding to what you have in the note mapping. So you can set up individual chords for each one of those. And then we also have an arpeggiator section where you can set all the MIDI stuff like rate, shuffle, velocity, all that. And the sequencer where you can make special changes to specific sequencer steps. So let's go about creating a quick arpeggio. The first thing I'll do is go to AutoArp's track in the sequencer and create a group of 1 bar and then fill that up with notes. So actually, let's just make that 1 bar. And you can hear the preset is already C major, just a single 3-note arpeggio. That's already pretty cool, but we're making electronic music, and that's minor most of the time, so I'm going to switch the key and scale to C minor. Okay, now we're going somewhere. Now, as you can see, I'm triggering C here, and C is set to trigger the first chord in the chord generator. If you can see here, we've got the chord generator here, and it's triggering C. Now, if I were to trigger D, let me just move that up, it will trigger, as you can see here, the D chord, which is the first diminished. And that just comes with the scale that you set here. Key C, scale minor. That means that if we play D, it's going to be the first diminished one. And if we move that even further up to D sharp, we get a D sharp major. And we can change all of those. So let's say instead of instead of the D sharp major on D sharp, I want, let's just go over to custom chord. Let me select the chord here, switch over to custom, and there we can turn notes on or off. So let's just say we are at D sharp, and I don't want D sharp to be, maybe I want F to be triggered. So I just activate F here and leave that at custom, and then we should hear the F as well. Oh, actually, that's my custom chord, and I only activated F, sorry. So, yeah, let's go for D sharp, F, and G. And that's the way you can program custom chords. All you gotta do is drag on these handles and activate the notes. And you can set them up so that they're 1 octave down, 1 octave up, or maybe that they're 2 octaves. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. You can do virtually anything. It also has a chord dictionary where you can look up all the chords, but I'm not going to show you that right now. But it has literally all the chords that are in existence, or next to all the chords that are in existence. So let's move back to our first note here, and let's talk about the arpeggiator a little bit. In the arpeggiator, as you can see in the sequencer here, we can see the notes. But you can change the timing, source settings, and the style of the playing. So let me just experiment with that a bit. I'm going to play, and now I'm going to turn the rate down to 1/8. Maybe I should activate the click in the background so you can hear it better. And then you can add certain shuffles or human touches. So if you go human 56%, then it will give some sloppiness to the song, just to give it a human feel. And that's really useful if you trigger multiple guitars, for example. They will play slightly off of each other, and that will make it sound natural. Of course, you also have shuffle, which is pretty cool. And then let me just see what else we have here. You can, in the source settings, you can set the maximum chord size, and you can also extend the notes up. So right now we have 3 notes in this chord: C, D sharp, and F. But if we say extend notes up, then it will play once. Well, if we put extend notes up to +1, then it will play 1 more note 1 octave higher. If we set it to 2, it will play 2 more notes, and that way we can extend the chord the way we want. So you can play with that. And then there's also a style where you can set the gate length. And you can set the velocity for the entire arpeggio. And you can also set some random variation in the dynamics. So if we go 45 down and 45 up, you can hear that there's some randomness in the dynamics. So there are a lot of functions that will make this sound like a human, basically, which is pretty cool. And then in the sequencer, we can set pretty much all of this, or a lot of these settings, for specific notes in a sequencer. So let's say I want the entire chord to be played on the first note. Then I would select the first note using the note selection buttons here. And I would set the type of that step to a custom chord. So now I have this. And then maybe I want on the 5th note, I want the entire thing to be 1 octave up. So I'll just use the octave shift to go up by 1. And using these shift buttons, I already created a pretty unique sound, a pretty unique arpeggio. And that is the basic front interface of AutoArp. I know I've only touched on a couple of things, but there's so much in here that I can barely cover this in one single video. Just as a quick bonus, I'm going to take a look at the back of the rack. And there you can see there are a lot of settings that will change the behavior of the arpeggio with MIDI. For example, restart arpeggio on settings change, or you can also leave that, so it's only restarted on a new MIDI note, all these kind of things. And then you've got CV inputs for octave shift, rate, shuffle, velocity, and gate length, which is pretty cool. So you can hook up an LFO maybe to the shuffle and have it go straight and then shuffly, maybe something like that. And then also there are all the CV outputs. And of course, I'm using the main output, but you can also use the CV out for arpeggio playing, for example, to hook that up to a separate instrument and then control 2 from the same device. And there are a couple of pretty interesting patches where if you only trigger one single note, it will play an entire chord progression and drums and bass line and stuff. And just to show you one of the more sophisticated patches, I pulled out a piano. This patch is called Piano in the House, and it also has drums and bass, but I pulled out just the piano so I can kind of demonstrate the way chord progressions work. This is just a basic house piano. Let me just... yeah, it's the Spiky Grand patch, which you probably all know. And then I drew in a couple of chords. So that's C, D, B, and F, and then D sharp. And this piano is set to Lydian. So even if I program D sharp in here, it will play D. So usually Usually, if you play a note, a button or a little like dot will appear next to it to indicate that it's triggered. And with D it does so as well, but if I hit D sharp, it goes down to D, just so that you can't make any mistakes on a live performance, which I think is pretty cool. So if I now play this back, you can immediately tell that these chords are programmed so that they work together all the time. And that is because of the custom chords and because of what you can set up in this chord generator for each individual note. So it allows you to not only create an arpeggio like the arpeggiate arpeggiator that comes with Reason, but it allows you to create an actual backup and performance tool that you could use for live performances, for example. One note on the interface, something I need to mention just to be fair. I think this is a great arpeggiator, but one thing that needs a bit of work is the interface. It took me a very long time to actually figure out how to work with stuff. For example, activating the chord generator is not just clicking this button or dragging on the on or off switch, but you need to drag on the enabled indicator, and then you need to drag quite a bit. Like I'm here right now, and I need to drag down almost until the end of this until the middle of this arpeggiator section for it to even be that change. And that was something that really confused me in the beginning. Also the chord selector, which changes these things right here, you have to drag on the chord select text. You can't drag on the chord itself, and you can't click these buttons, which makes it much less enjoyable to use. It's a very useful arpeggiator, definitely, but I think the interface needs some work. Nevertheless, I really like the way this device behaves, and I've been using it a lot lately. So yeah, thanks for checking out my review of the AutoArp rack extension from Black & Orange. Link to the rack extension is in the video description. And as always, during Codeout.